Most of us know the tarot deck as a fixture of dimly lit parlor tables, a randomized set of cards flipped over to predict a new romance or a sudden financial windfall. However, these early woodcuts date back centuries before the modern occult revival popularized divination. The iconography seen here mirrors the diagrams found in scientific and philosophical treatises of the Renaissance, suggesting a purpose tied more to natural philosophy than to predicting the future. Within the central sequence of the major arcana, cards 8 through 14, there is a specific progression of imagery. When viewed in order, these cards function as a visual manual for the magnum opus, or the great work. This 16th century engraving shows two men operating a distillation apparatus. While historical alchemists physically labored over furnaces attempting to refine base metals, the texts accompanying such images often described the laboratory as an allegory. The objective was the internal refinement of the alchemist's own character. To follow this path, we must look at these 7 cards as stages of a process, tracing 3 specific phases of inner alchemy. The journey begins with the stabilization of the self. Alchemists called this initial stage coagulatio, the process of pulling distinct solid forms out of a chaotic state. Card 8, Strength, illustrates this through the taming of the lion. It depicts the redirection of primal instinct into conscious power. The goal isn't to destroy instinct, but to master it. This newly acquired power requires the perspective found in card 9, the Hermit. This represents a period of internal purification, a solitary search for what alchemists called the philosopher's light, which is only visible once the distractions of the external world are silenced. This internal clarity leads to card 10, the Wheel of Fortune. Here, the initiate encounters the stage of cosmic circulation, recognizing the broader cycles of fate and planetary influences that govern the material world. The first phase concludes with card 11, Justice. The scales represent the attainment of equilibrium. The internal opposing principles, the active sulfur and the passive mercury, are brought into a state of exact functional balance. Achieving this symmetry completes the construction of the ego. The psyche is now stable, which is the necessary state for the transformation that follows. Alchemy presents a challenge. Once a state of balance is achieved, it must be surrendered to allow for further evolution. Card 12, the Hanged Man, represents the stage of dissolution. The initiate hangs suspended, inverting their perspective and surrendering to the alchemical bath. This is the voluntary release of the identity they have just finished owning. This leads to card 13, Death. In alchemical terms, this is the Negredo stage, not a physical end, but the decomposition of old psychological forms. During Negredo, the self dissolves into a dark void. The structures of the personality are broken down, returning to their most basic, unformed state. This stage is a prerequisite for what follows. The old matter must be entirely cleared away before the final form can be forged. Once the decomposition of the old self is complete, the initiate emerges from the darkness of the Negredo phase. This manuscript page shows a glass vessel containing united figures, representing Temperance. Alchemists called this conjunctio, integrating separate parts into a whole. The vessel bridges the physical figures below and blooming life above, joining conscious and unconscious minds into a stable state. This integrated state is the intended meaning of the Philosopher's Stone. It was not described as a physical object, but as a psyche that has been made indestructible through the alchemical process. The sequence from Strength to Temperance suggests the most complex work of alchemy takes place within. The goal is the systematic dismantling and reconstruction of the mind.